And we are back. Don't know what exactly happened there, but our stream went down, so luckily we were monitoring it with our large production crew here of Dustin and Tim, checking their phones while we're streaming. So hopefully you can see us, and we are up. But yeah, whatever happened there, our stream dropped, so luckily this time we noticed it before too much time went by. So that sucks that we're split into two streams, but that's all right. At least we figured it out. So we were talking about how the COVID lockdowns had actually probably caused more deaths than the actual disease, especially when we look at how historically respiratory diseases and overdose deaths have been.
It's going to buffer like crazy, so what's going to happen is you just have to record it and finish it out, but anybody that's going to watch it live right now is probably going to have a hell of a time. That's why it killed it, is because it's probably YouTube itself. Yeah. So,
well, we'll try that.
Finish it. It'll, they can watch it later.
Okay.
But,
well, we'll go ahead and record that now.
Gonna like you is all.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on there with that, but let's see.
Probably at least talk about our Easter stuff. That way people can at least, or at least finish what we was going to talk about, you know.
Okay. Well, I'm recording this, so if you're live streaming, we'll have this up for you a little bit later. I just hit the record button, so we should be able to finish this up. So, yeah, we were talking about how the COVID deaths and the deaths from drug and alcohol were disproportionate. So we're looking at, gosh, this thing is not working at all. It'd be very frustrating. So let's go. We are on the main thing. The display capture is on, and yet it is not capturing our display. There we go.
There we go.
U.S. mortality age 13 to 38. Or to 18. We're looking at teenagers, man. Teenagers die from respiratory diseases at a pretty low rate. Now, they die from alcohol and drugs at a higher rate, but we look at about a 50% increase here or less than 50% increase in respiratory illness deaths. And then we look at a 100% we're looking at like a 90% increase in drug and alcohol-induced deaths. So it's just like many of us said, you're going to have a lot of deaths from desolation, despair, suicide, stuff like that from people being isolated and not able to interact with one another. People need social interaction. It drives people crazy without it. So this is kind of how you feel when all your predictions come true, but all your predictions are about horrible things happening. It must suck to be Alex Jones, man, because you think about, like, okay, Alex, though, he's been on the air for like 28 years, and he's predicted a lot of shitty things that have happened. But I imagine, like, okay, my uncle, he found out about a lot of these things back in the early 70s. Can you imagine trying to tell people this, especially being crazy and a Vietnam veteran, and, I don't even know if I want to say that. I don't want to say too much, because even though it's 50 years ago, it was kind of like one of those things like somebody tried to kill my uncle and he had to take care of business after he got out of what his job was in the military in the early 70s. And so I can imagine being him, realizing all these conspiracies and stuff are real and holding on to that knowledge and trying to tell people about it for, how many years? 50 years. And nobody listening to you and thinking you're the crazy guy because you're telling them this stuff that you've lived and you've understand and you realize this is real shit, and they're calling you a conspiracy theorist. Mm-hmm. So big shout out to all the guys who've been out there, trying to tell people about this and warning people about a lot of the things that are coming to pass now. People weren't listening then, but they're listening now. So appreciate all your bravery and valor by trying to get this word out there for all those years. We're going to get into the main topic of the show tonight, which is the pagan origins of Easter. Now, I'm sure you've all seen this meme on Facebook. This is Ishtar, pronounced Easter. Easter was originally a celebration of Ishtar, the Assyrian and Babylonian goddess of fertility and sex. Her symbols, like the egg and bunny, which actually not true, her symbols were not the egg and bunny, were and still are fertility and sex symbols? Or did you actually think eggs and bunnies had anything to do with the resurrection? After Constantine decided to Christianize the empire, Easter was changed to represent Jesus. But as its roots, Easter, which is now you pronounce Ishtar, is all about sex, celebrating fertility and sex. I'm sure you've seen that on Facebook. It's been around for several years now. But there's some truth to that. To some parts of that, but Ishtar was not actually. Well, for one, Ishtar didn't have anything to do with eggs. Let's go to Scientific American, and I'll hit a couple of points I've shared. Well, shit, I shared these description of these articles in the description of the original video. So if you'll go back to the first video that we shared tonight, the first live stream, you'll go back to that, you'll find all these articles in the description, so you can check these out yourself. But this is from Scientific American, and let's reject all these cookies here. Beyond Ishtar, the tradition of eggs at Easter, and we go on to realize that the meme is a little bit off, and this Scientific American, although I do think Scientific American puts out a lot of stuff that I don't necessarily agree with. It's overly political for a scientific magazine. I do feel like this one is pretty well on. Clearly, we all know the Facebook memes are the ultimate source of information, particularly when it makes a biting point about something that some group is not particularly favorably viewed. But it is well known that under the Roman Empire, Christianity did indeed adopt the pagan rituals of conquered peoples in an effort to help convert them. Now, I think that's pretty well known. We look at all our
practice.
Yeah, if we look at all of our holidays, You had people in Europe who were celebrating festivals, harvest, springtime, based on it was nature festivals based on when
cycle.
Yeah, when we get warm again, everything was going to be better times. It was going to be less of a struggle, so they celebrated. When they brought the food in for the harvest, they're going to have a lot of food to eat, and it was the last time before it got really cold, and everybody was going to have to, burn a lot of fuel and work really hard to stay alive. So it would make sense that people would celebrate those holidays. But when the Romans did conquer those pagan cultures, it made sense to allow them to keep celebrating their holidays, but to change them, okay, well, this is still a holiday, but you are going to now be celebrating it for Jesus. And that made it a lot easier for people to say, okay, yeah.
Which most of the cultures they did try to convert, they were still polytheistic. So they're like, hey, here's another God.
Right.
So it made it more palatable for them to be like.
Seen,
that's a good point.
Well, you looked at a lot of that Nordic stuff. You know about how they got, one of the ways they got a lot of the Nordic people to convert to Christianity was to tack Ragnarok, and they put Genesis on the front of it, because Art of Ragnarok's supposed to be a loop anyway. It was understood in their story that at the end that everything was a cycle and it all started back over again. And when the Christians came in and was like, no, see right here, Adam and Eve. After Ragnarok, here's all Adam and Eve, and in their text, there's two people. There's a man and a woman, and it's supposed to represent how the world goes through cycles of destruction, rebirth, destruction, rebirth. And so it's real easy for them to slide just a part two, because at the end of Revelation, you can start at the beginning of Ragnarok.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like what Mormonism did. They just went, no, there's a Bible part two.
Bible 2.
Bible 2.
Jesus takes America.
I'm sure you could make a movie out of that. You could really get Nick Cage to star in it.
I hear Mel Gibson's available, looking for new Jesus films. Actually, I think he's making a Passion of the Cross Part 2. That'll be interesting.
If you're joking, because things have gotten so weird.
I know, I'm serious.
Did I just give you a preview of it? Was that what that was?
Yes, that's what that was.
Jesus is back, and he's pissed.
Jesus, with the second coming.
The second coming. Man, Jesus did say, buy a sword. If you can't buy a sword, sell your cloak to buy a sword. So he was basically saying that being able to fight to defend your life and your family's life was more important than being able to stay warm. So that's some pretty important teachings from Jesus there. So the popular meme that we've seen on Facebook, it has some truth to it, but there's a few things wrong with it. For one, Ishtar was the goddess of love and war and sex, as well as protection, fate, childbirth, marriage, and storms. So there's some fertility in there, but it's not like her primary focus. Like, yeah, fertility is included in that, but it's not like she's the god of fertility. She's also the god of war and storms, marriage. It's an element of power. So here's something interesting too. The cult of Ishtar, they had basically what they call divine prostitution. You would go into, if you remember the cult of Ishtar, you would go and present yourself to someone else in the temple. And if you were a woman, you would have sex with they was basically wife swapping for divine purposes. And
the money would go to charity.
yeah, pretty much. They would pay you to do your wife swapping, and you could go
swap meet.
Yeah.
Swap meet. That's what redneck swingers would call it. We're going to the swap meet tonight, Dolores. Jeez.
The Ishtar symbols were the lion, the morning star, and 8 or 16-pointed stars, and which were also symbols of power. So Ishtar is more of a power symbol than a fertility symbol, even though she is a fertility symbol. The word Easter also does not appear to be evolved or derived from Ishtar, but from the German Esther, the goddess of the dawn, a bringer of light. Now, English and German are in the minority of languages that use the form of the word Easter to mark the holiday. Elsewhere, the observance is framed in Latin Pascha, which is derived from the Hebrew of Pesach, meaning associated with the Passover. So Ishtar and Easter appear to be homophones. They're pronounced similarly, but have different meanings.
Something, I guess, to go with it. I'm blanking out. It's like something with she went to the underworld to get her son or something.
I think that was,
like, resurrect him from the dead. Isn't that part?
I don't know. Wasn't that Isis?
I thought they were,
maybe it was Ishtar. I don't know.
I just saw the Phoenix part.
I don't find anything. Yeah, we were talking about the Phoenix, and that's where the eggs come from. A lot of people say the eggs come from, the fertility, and they're eggs in a lot of different cultures, including Hindu and what's the word? Not just Hindu. Well,
is it Eastern?
Yeah, it's an Eastern culture. I can't think of it, but there's a lot of different cultures that have the egg, the cosmic egg idea, right? Where we're in different layers of reality, and the egg is representative of breaking through the different layers of reality and stuff. But I don't think that's where we're looking at from Easter. It appears that in the early 20th, or not the early 20th century, early 3rd and 4th century AD, that they actually started using the Christians at the time started using the egg to represent the phoenix. Right, the phoenix was a bird who died. It supposedly lived hundreds of years, and then when it died, it burned up in flames and was rebirthed from the ashes. So the egg was actually representative originally in the 3rd and 4th century of Christianity as the rebirth of the phoenix. So the phoenix was used as a symbol of Christianity at the time too. Before of course, you had the fish, but you also had the phoenix being used.
Well, the phoenix was used because of the analogy of being born again,
Right.
Which was a misunderstanding to the idea of the phoenix, which I might skip over. But
Well, give us a clip.
okay, well, because I also have something with the Easter egg and the rabbit that's kind of like making me wonder. Like, Phoenix? The idea of the phoenix is misunderstood because the idea of the phoenix, when it burns up, at some point, I guess the translation got changed where it was like, something new came out of it. But like, the idea of the phoenix is the only thing left that can survive the heat is what the phoenix is. So the idea is like, if you can burn yourself as a person, like dissolve your personality, I guess would be the layman's way of saying it. If you could dissolve everything about yourself in the fires of reality and whatever, whatever manages to survive that is what's worthy of living, and that would be the Phoenix. And just most people aren't strong enough to go through the process of destroying themselves.
Hey, spill the tea all over me. If you're out there, thanks for tuning in. Thanks for commenting on the videos. I had an interesting conversation with you a little bit earlier about the feral people of Appalachia. So I just got your chat. So thanks for joining us. I hope you're with us tonight. Even though we really had to redo the kind of this stuff, some of this stuff, hopefully it's coming through. And if not, we will upload the video so y'all can check it out a little bit later.
It's just doing it choppy. Goth's got it going still, so.
Okay, well, I'm recording this, so if it doesn't come out well enough for people to be able to watch, then we will re-upload it. We're going to look now at
The Easter egg. Why, since you're going to it, doesn't an egg and a bunny, isn't that something that seems like it would represent spring anyway? Because that's when all the little rabbits come out.
Yeah,
That's when the chickens
and
start laying
they come out
eggs
and
shit.
fuck like rabbits.
That's what I'm saying. It just seems like those are natural, like,
Yeah.
sort of symbols that represent Easter eggs.
Yeah, I mean, you can call it pagan,
Spring.
but it's just, it's just a sign of people who, I mean, you can call it pagan if you want to, but everywhere around the world, you start seeing the mammals come back out in the springtime, and they start getting Twitter-pated. They start having, fucking and getting ready for having babies in the summer and fall.
It just makes no sense that you start seeing animals and stuff when, it's like, I know we base a lot of our religions and stuff off of the changing of the stars and the patterns of the seasons and things like that, but like, that's the one universal that we all have as human beings is the weather does, unless you're like tropic, maybe not there, but almost everywhere has, sees the stars change, and almost everywhere has some weather patterns change and stuff, so it's almost like the ultimate mind hack to kind of get into people's psyche with religion,
Well, I mean, if you believe in God and if there is God, then that's the way He created things. So it would be an extension of your worship of that God to, worship the things that He created as far as the seasons and the way that things go. And you say this is an extension of God, and this is the world God created. So it only makes sense that people who believe in a God would celebrate these things. And even if you didn't, I mean, it's important to everybody. The harvest is important to everybody. The animals having babies, and the spring trees blooming, and the spring plants blooming, and you being able to start growing things, that is...
According to Greek, it was something different, but apparently that's a breed of the cicada.
The Orny cicada that we just happened to come across because, what's her name?
Kayla.
Kayla, yes, was telling us that she lived at near Oak Ridge National Laboratory, which we do too, and we live next to nuclear fuels, which I've always been told, if we were in a nuclear war, we'd be screwed because nuclear fuels are over there. And they may be right, I don't know, but it's kind of like a million spots around the country that you could say would be prime targets for such a thing. Let's see what else we got here for tonight. We got the New York Post. How ancient pagan rituals helped inspire modern Easter traditions. And
You wanted to say Eastern.
yeah, I did. I sure did.
Reading it with you in my head, I was like, why am I doing that?
For Christians, Easter has always been about celebrating the central miracle of Jesus' death and resurrection. So it's been an important date in the Christian calendar, really going back to the early days of Christianity, says Andrew Hahn, the head of Historians Team and English Heritage. But, of course, we know Easter has a lot of pagan origins. So it comes from a lot of traditions that are much earlier than Christianity itself. So a lot of people try to take this and say that it means that, Christianity is null and void, that there's no such thing as Christianity because of this. But to me, it comes right back to, I don't know. I've told you before in this show, I'm kind of agnostic. I don't know whether Christ was the Son of God or not. I'd like to think He was, but
I'm an apathist.
Yeah, I mean, I actually can't make myself believe it because other people believe it. It may be true, but I just can't make myself believe it. So it has a lot of pagan origins, but it seems like it's also been a story that was used, like it was a pre-existing story, that when the Roman Empire conquered a lot of these pagan areas, they said, okay, now the reason that you're celebrating this holiday is because Jesus died and has been forgiven for your sins, or has taken your sins onto himself. Now, it really helped that they already had a spring holiday. They already had spring holiday traditions. It's been celebrated thousands of years, a long time before Christianity, and there's lots of stories about resurrection in springtime. And if you think about it, every year when the plants die in the wintertime, they come back in the springtime. So it only makes sense to have a deity who dies and then comes back. He stays dead for a few days and he comes back. Now, then, that's not to dismiss any of the actual religious implications or anything like that. But when you look at how a primitive society would celebrate such a thing, it only makes sense that it would follow right along those things, or right along those same way. So we see that Easter does have a lot of pagan origins. The theme of resurrection, through a Christian lens, comes back to Christ dying and being resurrected. But before Christ, the Sumerians had a tradition around the goddess Inanna. Now, she descended into the underworld during winter, and once winter ended, she was brought back to life. And it seems like to be very similar to, the idea of Christ dying, being forgiven for the sins, and coming back to life. And rebirth is very central to the traditions, going right back to the early days of civilizations. Han said the story is going through all these different religions that have this idea of rebirth in the spring, which is very, very closely linked to the Christian tradition. Now, there's a few examples of how Christian and pagan elements came together to form the Easter holiday we know today. In the 8th century, Easter was celebrated during the spring equinox and is associated with some of the familiar Easter traditions that have lasted to this day. The hot cross bun, you think this has tradition, you think it has Christian association because of the cross, but Esther had buns that were marked with the cross to celebrate the 4 seasons and the 4 primary phases of the moon.
That's such a hot cross buns. I'm sorry, that just took me out of nowhere when you said that.
I would kind of like a hot cross bun. It would taste really good right now.
Yeah.
I've been drinking vodka, and hot cross bun would be the way to go. But Easter doesn't fall on the same day every year, and it's because the date is decided by the phases of the moon. You got the first Sunday after the first full moon after the spring equinox, right? Mm-hmm. Which is the first day of spring, the spring equinox. So Esther's association with spring went beyond the lunar cycles and hot cross buns. She was also associated with the mascot of Easter, the Easter Bunny. And the Easter Bunny is centuries old too. You kind of get this idea that it's a modern thing, kind of like 20th century kind of come along.
Does the rabbit represent human babies and newborn children?
Well, I mean, it represents fertility.
I don't know. I think maybe there's
fucking like rabbits.
Do you think so? Though I don't really think it does. Like,
what do you think?
I think the rabbit might represent the actual kid, because you would need your babies to be born not in the wintertime for them not to die. Yeah. And look at see in this picture right here, they've got the baby and the rabbit out at the same time. And what's the baby and the rabbit have in common?
I'm trying to pull that picture up so folks can see it, and it's not cooperating. Okay,
well, in the picture, it's I guess it's supposed to be the Virgin Mary. And I'm going to guess.
It is the Virgin Mary.
Okay, I'm going to guess that's when she met, was it John the Baptist's mom? Was that one of them? Anyway, they've got a baby out there. And then Mary also has her hand on a rabbit. And the rabbit and the baby, the human baby, the thing they have in common is they're both helpless. Like a rabbit can't defend itself. That's one of the most helpless animals on the planet. But at the same time, I'm pretty sure there's probably like a Jordan Peterson speech or something to explain this a lot better than my redneck ass. But the idea of the rabbit is there's no virtue in the rabbit.
Oh, dude, Jordan Maxwell died.
Yeah, I saw
you
that
heard
the
of
other day, yeah.
Yeah.
That was-
So if you're like into the symbolism and stuff like this, and like Jordan Maxwell was one of the OGs in the internet at least from the internet, from explaining, symbolism going back
creepy,
to.
though, isn't that just Lane's?
Oh, I don't know if she has anything to do with Ghislaine or not, but that is her last name. She's related to Robert Maxwell.
My bad.
Yeah, Jordan Maxwell was the guy who did all the. He wasn't completely accurate on all of it, but he opened up a lot of people to the idea that there's a lot of symbology behind the things we're seeing behind advertising.
Oh, well, this has nothing to do with this.
No.
This isn't symbology. This is symbolism, but it's not hidden symbolism. This is more like occult symbolism.
Yeah, Jordan Maxwell was one of the OGs of exposing esoteric symbolism and turning a lot of people onto that. He's one of the first people that I came across whenever I started realizing that there were groups out there putting out, symbolic artwork and symbolic representations of the things that they were doing in the world. And so Jordan Maxwell was one of the first people I discovered when I started getting into conspiracy and stuff like that. So definitely respected Jordan. He was one of the pioneers of sharing this stuff on the internet. So we appreciate him for everything he did. It's sad that he had to go, but he definitely did his part with exposing a lot of this stuff.
I guess this wouldn't be conspiracy symbolism. Maybe more like psychology and occultism and theosophy. The idea of the rabbit, it links up with the phoenix, because more the idea of the phoenix is once you've burned yourself up in the trials of life, like what survives is who you truly are. And the idea behind the virtue of the rabbit, a rabbit's not virtuous. A rabbit is helpless. There's a difference. You can't be virtuous if you have no means to cause destruction. Like, the only way you can even be virtuous, which is why these virtue signalers piss me off so bad. You can't be virtuous unless you're capable of being like a monster.
Right.
Like someone who has the ability to kill and then doesn't is virtuous, or cause harm, I guess would be it. It's not virtuous for you to not do things because you don't have the ability to do it. And it's the same way with human beings. Like, we're very capable of a lot of really bad things, but it's like finding our virtue is when we realize that we don't do bad things and we don't need a heaven or a hell to not do bad things. What we really need to do is find out within ourselves that you just don't do it because you don't do it. Like, there's a knowledge that I can't even sum up that you don't do certain things. And you don't need a punishment or a reward system to not do it. You just don't do it. And I think that's really what the Phoenix is really all about. Like, I don't know, like, almost like, I don't know how you can be a good person without trying at least to experiment with being a bad person first, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, no, I understand. I remember about probably 8, 9, 10 years ago when a lot of the woke stuff started coming onto the fore in, say, Facebook and social media and stuff like that. I had a discussion with a lady on Facebook, and I didn't have a term to describe this at the time. But have you ever heard of white knighting?
Yeah.
Okay, so this man was white knighting for a feminist cause. Basically, he was espousing a feminist cause with the idea that his motives were that he respected women and that he just wanted women to have the respect that they deserve. Mm-hmm. And I expressed some concern that this was becoming a new way for men to basically trick women into having sex with them. Mm-hmm. by pretending that they are. No, maybe it's not new, but I mean culturally
this is very sneaky tactic.
Yeah, and this woman was having well, what's the bad thing about this? Because he is standing up for the rights of women. And
it's not real.
And I didn't really have a way to describe it at the time because it seemed to be a new phenomenon. But that's it. It's not real. It's just a new way to get laid.
Mm-hmm. It's the same reason I won't. It's the same reason I won't play churches. It's not right. Just because a big mega church would pay me to come play music. Yeah. It's not right on my part because it's disrespectful because I don't fully embrace that Bible the way that they're doing it. And that's disrespectful on my part to walk into a church, pretend to be one of them for their satisfaction, and then take their money. It's not right.
I agree.
And it's the same way these sneaky ass guys that pretend to be feminists, and they're not feminists, they're betas. They're not feminists at all. They're just trying, like, I'm not good enough to get you to sleep with me on my own merit. So what I want to try to do is appeal to what you're passionate about and hope you feel sorry for my pathetic ass. That's
Or
what
even
that
if
is.
even if they're not betas, this was in this particular instance, this was more of an alpha male doing this. This was a Chad doing this,
So he's
but he had
guilty.
recognized.
So he's guilty then.
Yes, he had recognized that this was what it took to get him laid.
So how
and
many
this
people
was what
did he
was
rape
doing.
then?
Well, I don't know that he raped them, but
I'm just saying. You ever seen an alpha Chad walking around trying to get girls to give him pity sex if he doesn't need to? What'd he do wrong? I'm just telling you, if the rape culture does exist, it's not amongst college football players. It's amongst those guys that can't get laid on their own merit and they take advantage of roofiing people.
incels.
I don't even want to call them incels. Incels are at home wishing they had the courage to go to a party and
Yeah,
take
I guess
advantage of a girl on the couch. They don't even have the courage to go to the party. You get in trouble if you start speaking too much about rape culture, stuff like that, because they pretend like it exists on a larger level than I do think it exists. I don't think it doesn't exist. I do think there are psychopaths out there that want to prey, and I do think it is much more on an Ivy League school level. I don't think there's any like serial rapists hanging around like Northeast State or something.
They put out these studies that say 1 in 4 women or 1 in 5 women will be raped in college. But then you look into the meat of it, and they count it as if a woman got drunk and decided that she regretted having sex with someone, or even if she didn't get sex.
God, there's tons of men
Get
out there
drunk.
been raped then.
Yeah, well, if she regretted it after the fact and she was drunk, then it was rape. And that's what they're counting that. So, first of all, I don't recommend that you necessarily go to college anyway, because
I do. I think you should go for storytelling. And
there are certain circumstances where you should go to college. Like if you want to be a doctor, you got to go to college.
gotta go to college to be a doctor.
I mean, but if you don't know what you want to do, necessarily going to the college isn't the way to go. But don't let that discourage you. This whole statistic that 1 in 5 women is raped, in their
Discourage me
college
from what?
from going to college.
Oh.
If going to college is something that you need to do,
That's not what they're trying to discourage. They're not trying to discourage women from going to college. What they're trying to do
is demonize men.
is try. Well, let me see if I can play devil's advocate so it doesn't
Okay.
come across as us just right wing pandering. I've been to school about 500 times. One of the last times I went, I had to take it was about a 4-hour course proving that I knew how not to rape women, and it really was pretty absurd.
Dude, that's what the first thing I went to college. That was the first thing. Is like, here's how you don't rape.
Here's how you
women.
don't rape. And it really was like, you see that girl pass down on the couch, and she's got like vodka running out of her mouth, and she's like, it's like,
Don't go
did
stick
you
your dick in her
A-
mouth.
Yeah, like, did you A, have sex with her, B, not have sex with her, or C, take her into a room by herself and give her some privacy when nobody can disturb her. It's always like this walk. And I get that, I don't know, I think once again, just like the no gay thing is an overcorrection to actual perverts, I think those computer courses teaching all guys that they shouldn't rape is an overcorrection to some real shitheads out there.
Yeah.
I think there are some real shitheads.
Oh yeah,
who
for
do
sure.
that.
There definitely are.
And unfortunately, some people overreacted and decided to. Because I guess my concern is younger guys for the last 10 years have really had no reason to feel good about themselves. Like the school has told you that girls are special and you're not. The school has told you. I mean, like there's there's nothing for young guys. Is what I'm saying. So they've really tried to make young guys feel like shit for over 10 years now. And now they have to take a course showing that they won't rape, like it's almost like Zootopia or what that movie from Disney was. Like they're just gonna go feral at any minute. Just I gotta start raping, like that's what because that's Zootopia. I think Zootopia has told us what was going on this whole time, even though it's a Disney movie. It's the sheep that's trying to fuck everybody over and blame it on the lion. And that's really what's going on. Like all the like weak, sick-minded people are trying to blame it on the actual people that could do something correctly. On the things that they've got teeth and they don't, because we're so helpless that we must be virtuous. So, I don't know. We'll
Man,
put psychology in there, I guess.
I had somewhere to go with that, but you're
Did I lose you at Zootopia? Did you start?
when you got to Zootopia, that really is
Well, it's gone.
that's about where I lost my train of thought on that one.
Yeah. Well, I think the train of thought there for me is that you can't be virtuous if you don't have the ability to have teeth. Like you're not
Yeah.
virtuous if you're helpless.
That's true. Well, where are we looking at? We are looking at.
With that.
What's that?
There's another quote that does that, but I can't think. I hear it, but I can't.
Oh, that's what I was trying
Yeah.
to say. There's plenty of people that can say it way better than my redneck ass. But the whole point of it is you're not virtuous if you're not even capable of doing any damage. So that's why I'm like, I don't want to take a dump on all. Sorry, I use a lot of air quotes. I'm sorry. Male feminists. It's just I don't know how I'm supposed to trust you. Like, it just seems sneaky. Like when you even like anytime have you ever heard of what they call it, the men going their own way movement? There's a group of women that joined into that movement where it was like women who were trying to help men that had gotten a bad deal in their divorce settlements and stuff like that, where they were trying to like, I don't know, it's like men's rights activists. MRA, I think that's what they call it online. It's a men's rights activist. But anytime you catch the women that are in on the men's rights activist group, it's always women that come across as really grifty, that are just trying to get the needle to move for them a little bit. And so anytime I see these like convert people, like white people speaking for black people, that it just doesn't make any sense to me. I don't trust any of those people.
No, I agree. And Malcolm X said the biggest enemy to, I think he said the Negro, is the white liberal.
Well, yeah.
And you can definitely see why he said that, because it seems like the white liberal is more interested in capturing the black vote for political power more than actually
Helping.
advancing the cause of the black people. So I can definitely see where he came from that. So we were on the pagan origins of Easter, and we were talking about the New York Post, and
That's a nice chicken.
the earliest reference. Let's see if we can get this in here.
I mean,
They look like Night of the Lepus bunnies. Did you ever
Yeah.
see Night of the Lepus?
Yes.
No, I love that movie.
Dude, whenever I went to my grandmother's house,
hooves. They
did,
look
don't they?
like donkeys.
They more like hares, maybe.
It's not thieves.
when I used to go to my grandmother's house when I was a kid, I didn't have cable. My grandmother did. And there was a few times when I went over that Night of the Lepus was on.
Chicken has hands.
And I saw that movie probably 3 times. That and The Black Hole. Did you ever see The Black Hole by
Yes.
Disney? I love
Yeah.
that movie, man. It's like I didn't get a lot of access to sci-fi at that age.
Navigator. They used to play that in right with the black hole. Was one called Fly the Navigator.
I don't remember.
Weird CGI. That chicken has hands. I'm sorry.
It does,
like a
dude.
nice
Look
little
at it.
claw around its chicken shoulders. It's got baskets of eggs of its own young. It's about to sell to these horse rabbits or goat bunnies.
Whatever they be.
Yeah, there's something going on with this picture, man. It's tripping me out with these chicken hands. I know people at home can't see it, but this chicken has hands.
Dude, did you ever see that video of the goat or the sheep that, what was that fucking called? The sheep that was like on an acid trip.
Oh, I don't know.
Oh, man, we gotta
See that?
We gotta watch it. They don't now. They're watching us now.
The chicken with
Let's see.
the hands.
Oh, I know what it was called. It was called Bah.
Oh, okay, that movie about
Dude,
yeah,
this shit freaked me out.
Yeah.
But you guys are gonna watch it with me now.
Yeah, I've seen
So
it.
check it out.
They've made a bunch of different versions of this thing too.
This shit
they're
freaked
watching
me
it?
out.
Oh,
Yeah,
we
they're
just
watching
watched
it. It's on the screen, dude.
Making any noises?
I was not right for days when I watched this video for the first time.
I could send you some stuff that would ruin your existence then.
The music and okay, yeah, they are seeing it. Make sure they're getting the audio.
It's still choppy as crap.
Dude, this freaked me out. I mean, I was not right. I think it gave me flashbacks, acid flashbacks, when I watched this video for the first time. Because this shit fucked me up. And who did it? I mean, you had to be tripping balls to come up with this. Look at it.
Or at least trip balls a few times to think of what you could possibly do with it.
Yeah. Now, whoever did this has definitely done hallucinogenic drugs before.
Reminds me of the
Okay, this is what happens if the
there's the rabbit. There's the rabbit, you see it?
Yep.
Okay,
That was
that's
just
what happens if the creature from the thing actually made it to the mainland.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Right before I started saying there's the rabbit, I was about to say that really reminds me of the thing, how it could be anything, but it never quite looks right.
Yep.
That's a pretty wild movie.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite films.
Man, John Carpenter is always the Nihilism trilogy or the Antichrist trilogy, the Thing, and the Prince of Darkness, and At the Mountains of Madness. If y'all want to see some good nihilism movies or nihilist films, that's the way to go. Definitely recommend all three of those films.
I really like the Thing just because it's like they were so dedicated to the practical effects because he didn't want it to look really convincing. He wanted it to be confusing.
And if you like the effects and the things, and you haven't seen At the Mountains of Madness or The Mouth of Madness, I'm sorry, At the Mountains of Madness is a Lovecraft short story.
Which isn't that based off of that one though?
It probably is, yeah. The Mouth of Madness is a Lovecraftian film for sure. It definitely is based on the film noir and the Lovecraftian monsters. They get into but the practical special effects are just amazing. They're like, if you take the things from The Thing and you advance them by about 5 years. I think in the Mouth of Madness came out in 1990, and The Thing was out in like 1982. Something like that.
82 or was it 81?
It may have been. It was several years apart either way, but they definitely The Thing is more popular, but In the Mouth of Madness is definitely one. If you like The Thing, you should watch In the Mouth of Madness. And I've always loved John Carpenter, and we've talked about several John Carpenter movies over the course of this podcast. So John Carpenter is somebody who definitely understood everything that was going on and was trying to pass this information on to the world in a manner that entertained and informed. So if you haven't checked out John Carpenter's films, go out and definitely check out those, especially the what the fuck is it called? I just said it. The Blank trilogy.
The Antichrist trilogy?
The Antichrist trilogy, yes, thank you. So, yeah, definitely go check those out. If you're into conspiracy theories, you'll love all that stuff. Prince of Darkness is probably the most underrated of his films. Probably the least talked about. Everybody talks about The Thing. Everybody talks about They Live. Very few people talk about In the Mouth of Madness or Prince of Darkness. But Big Trouble in Little China is always a go-to. Now, if you don't like John Carpenter, get the fuck out of here. We don't want you on our channel.
The internet gives a lot of hate to Big Trouble in Little China, but I think it's play.
How do you not like Big Trouble in Little China, dude?
They try to make it like it's like one of those what the fuck happened to this movie sort of thing, but I think that movie was that way on purpose. I don't see anything about that movie that didn't seem intentional.
I don't care if it was intentional or not. I mean, if it was accident, to me, that makes it all the more beautiful.
Understand because it was all completely based on Chinese mythology, and we just didn't get it as Americans because it seemed so out of place that Kurt Russell was fighting like demon spirits and stuff.
Yeah.
And sometimes his bullets hurt, and sometimes they didn't.
Well, if people didn't understand it, fuck them, man. I mean, that was, and people enjoyed it. You know, whatever. I mean,
we really want to get on another thing in nihilism, and sort of some stuff we hit on. It's like Escape from New York, and also talking with John Carpenter
in L.A. Yeah, definitely, and we could definitely see some of those things, some of those themes from Escape from New York expressed in our modern society today.
Fuck your war and fuck your president.
Yeah, and they captured the president and are willing to change. It's all about money at that point when they capture him, and not only that, you see the island of Manhattan has
transformed to a prison colony more.
Yeah. And as we talk about in this podcast a lot, the areas of urban, dense urban centers, if shit shuts down and the supply chains keep getting crushed like they have been, then those urban centers are going to be the first place to feel it, and they're also going to be the first place to cut it off. And in the absence of government, you have warlords and private entities taking up the positions of power in those places. So that's something we could definitely see as we see prices go up the ability of people to transfer goods to go down, and not only that, crime going up, and the ability of the authorities in those areas to stop that crime has gone down. I mean, we just had mass shootings, as they call them, in several places over the weekend. But we are looking at 43 minutes since we rewired.
So yeah,
Yeah, so I think we're about at the end of it. But if you all are interested in the pagan origins of Easter, you can definitely Google that and find out more about it. And we've included, if you go back to the first episode, episode 31 on our channel, you'll find links to all the stuff that we talked about this evening, and a lot of the stuff that's interesting when it comes to Easter. So we appreciate you joining us, and we hope you'll subscribe. We hope you'll hit the notification bell so you can know when we're live. And I'm a little bit buzzed, so I think it's about time to hop off here. I'm starting to slur my words, so intelligible speech is becoming a little bit difficult. So I will see you guys this coming Wednesday, when we will do an episode. Next coming Wednesday, we've got gubernatorial candidate LaMichael Wilson from the Libertarian Party of Tennessee. He's going to be joining us, and we're going to be discussing some of the things that are on his platform and some of the issues facing Tennessee in the upcoming 2022 election.